I just come back from a wedding where I used the SL3S and the 2870 that was just announced a few weeks ago. I already did a review comparing the 2470 to this 2870. You can go check it up here if you haven't done so yet. And today I want to give you a little bit of my personal insights and thoughts about this combo. This was the very first wedding that I shot with the SL3S, believe it or not. I shot a lot of other projects, corporate shoots and events, but not an actual wedding. And I could finally use the 2870 for this wedding. I cannot show you a lot of faces in that wedding, but I will show you as much as I can so that you can have a little idea and I can illustrate the wedding and how it went. I went to Champéry here in Switzerland. This is a ski resort in winter at almost 2,000 meters altitude. In fact, to get there, I had to go with my car. Then I had to take one of those cabins that bring you to the mountain. And then I was picked up by someone with a car to go to the hotel. The hotel was privately rented for the weekend by the bride and groom so that the guests could sleep there. And so did I, because there was no way for me to go back after the wedding. Let's first start with the 28-70 lens. I want to mention the fact that I also had a Samyang 35 to 150 f2.8 in my bag. I used it a bunch of times specifically for the ceremony where I needed to get a little bit closer, and 70 was just not enough to do that. The things that you're going to notice, the differences between this and the 24-70, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but one of them is the fact that you're going to lose 4 millimeters on the wider side of things. I said in the past that 4 millimeters is not a huge difference and I can live with it, and it is partially true, but it is also true that when you're shooting a wedding with a combo like this, and you need to take photos, say, of the bride getting ready, or, you know, doing the hair makeup, or if you need to take some decorations photos or whatever, you don't always have the space to back off as much as needed, wherein 24 is a good focal length when you need a little bit more room in your photo and you don't want to back off too much. In fact, I was taking some group shots at some point and I was backing up. And at some point I even went against someone. I had to tell people to move so I could actually get the full shot. With the 24 millimeters, I didn't have that issue that often. So that is one thing to consider. I also like to have a 14-24 or 16-28. That will give you a little more room if you need to take photos of the venue, of, you know, where they're going to take the ceremony, during the ceremony and things like that. You have a bit of a wider angle to do so. There is a weight difference between the 2870 and the 2470 of almost 300 grams. And I have to tell you, I felt that difference big time. So yes, just for the weight purposes, when you have to stand on your feet an entire day from, you know, the morning to nighttime, it is good to have something a little bit lighter on your shoulders that will allow you to get through the day. And the difference between this 2870 and the 2470 is actually pretty impressive in real life. Let's now talk about the body, the SL3S itself. I have to say the quality of the shots that come out of this body are incredible. I keep saying it, the SL series, the 2S and now the 3S have been my go-to cameras for professional work. And every time I use these guys, be it for the simplicity of it, the form factor and how easy it is to get around it and have all your settings rapidly accessible, to me, it makes a huge difference. The biggest, I would say, improvement that they brought to the SL3S compared to the SL2S is the focusing system, the autofocus. They brought the phase detection that combines with the contrast detection, and together you get a very good autofocusing system. In fact, I noticed that a lot, well, during the day. I'm not saying that the SL2S is not good because I never really missed a shot when I was using it, but it is true that sometimes there was a little bit of hunting for the focus. It could not attach to anything, and because of the contrast detection. Wherein now, even in low light, in super low light, almost pitch black, I could still get a good focus. For example, when they were dancing at the beginning of the evening, there was barely any lights. There was only the DJ's little spotlights, and that was enough for me to get the focus and not miss most of my shots. I might have missed maybe one or two, but for the most part, the focusing system did a great job. Next point is the famous standby button that's on the back here. For those that don't know, the standby button is a replacement for the previous on and off switch. That allows you not only to turn it on and off and put it in standby, but you can also see if it's charging, if it has a low battery. You know, it gives you a bunch of LED indications, which is great. So I had mixed feelings with this button for many months, ever since I replaced the SL2S with the SL3S. And truth be told, during a wedding, it is actually usable and it actually makes sense. What I mean by that is when you press it once, it goes into standby. Your battery is being saved. The camera is not using any battery. And when you need to take a shot, you half press the shutter button and it's ready to go. I even took some photos of the floor by mistake sometimes because it's very responsive and the focus is quick. So I would just half press and press fully by mistake and just take a photo of the floor when I was taking my camera. So just to say that having this standby button when you're shooting events is actually pretty useful and convenient. I don't dislike it. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to it when you come from a previous SL camera. Battery wise, because as you know, we now have I say now, but since 2023, we have the battery that was brought with the Leica Q3, the new one, and that battery has now 2200 milliamp hour compared to 1860 milliamp hour on the previous generation. So there is a bump of roughly 20% more battery than the previous battery. And they officially say that you can take about 315 photos with one battery. If you think about it, this is not a camera that you take with you to take photos randomly, every day and just walk around, because it is a bigger beast, okay? It's not an M, it's not a Q. Those two cameras are made for that type of photographer that wants to go around. You can also use them professionally, don't get me wrong, obviously. And you can also use these for leisure and just go around. But the intent of this camera is mainly professional. It is geared towards, events photography, professional photographers, even if you want to do, sports, or even if you want to do, studio shots, things like that, where you need something that is quick, responsive, and that lasts and can hold up to the elements. If you go outdoor when it's raining or when it's cold, when it's hot, and so forth. Having 315 photos with one battery is not a lot, and it is by all means not excellent. There is way better options out there. I say it honestly, in all transparency, like I always do. But there is a workaround. If you want to use the system like I do, what you can do is obviously logically get another battery or another two batteries. Now with two batteries, I had enough to shoot my roughly 1500 photos that I took during the day. I used this dual charger here from Leica. This is a charger that allows you to concurrently charge via USB-C to Leica batteries, to SL batteries. That is very convenient, very useful, and that's what I've been using. I just take this thing with me close to the ceremony, put one battery on charge, I shoot, and when I'm around, 3/4 down, I go put it on charge, take the other one, swap them. Takes 2 seconds and you're good to go, and you can keep shooting. So it is not really an issue to have a battery with 315 shots. I did not drain those batteries, so I don't know if it is the case, but I do know that I swap pretty often, probably 10 times. I switch between batteries just to make sure that I have enough juice to shoot the entire wedding. A quick mention to the dual slot, memory slot. There's the CF and the SD slot. I complained in the past that as a photographer, I don't really care to have a CF slot. I do understand that Leica has to make a choice because you can shoot up to 6K open gate with this thing, and you need a memory card that can keep up with that. So my workaround as a photographer is very simple. I take a CF Express card, a Lexar, of 512 gigs, and I use 128 gigs SD card. And you use them as backup because my CF card stays in the camera pretty much the whole time. I never pull it out unless I'm going to be shooting video. And when I take shots, basically does a backup, a DNG backup. I don't shoot in JPEG these days. I do a DNG backup. Everything gets backed up on both. And then when I'm done, I exported the photos. I send them to the clients. I'm fully done and terminated with that project, that wedding, that event. I just format both cards in camera and you're good to go. Let's talk about the weight of this SL3S body compared to the SL2S. There is a slight difference of roughly 70 grams between the two, so it is not a huge difference of weight. But if you combine those 70 grams and the almost 300 grams between the 2870 and the 2470, you get about 400 grams difference between the two as a combo. And I can tell you with certainty, my shoulders were happy at the end of the shoot, at the end of the wedding. By the way, that wedding went all the way to midnight, started around 9:30. So you can imagine how many photos you have to take and how many hours you have to stand on your feet. And having something lighter does make a difference when you're shooting weddings. So overall, very happy with this combo. I will make a video soon about the Sigma 28-70, and I will be comparing it to this Leica 2870. It is 100 grams lighter than this one, so you can shave off even more weight if you really need to. And I will tell you a little more in terms of image quality between the two and how they compare. So stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any question, write it down in the comment section below. I will answer it as soon as possible, like I always do. And until then, keep taking great shots and let me know if you shot any wedding using the SL3S. Take care. Cheers.